Hey everyone, it's Dr. Hugo here from Study Smarter Academy and welcome back to the channel. So today we're not going to talk about study tips, but a controversial topic around study, which is sparked by one of our Instagram posts recently. So this post right here has sparked so many comments in the comment section, particularly this one right here, Calsaw246. Would you trust a doctor who is using a textbook in a consultation? And this is a really interesting debate. Before we get into whether all exams should be open book or not, let's talk a little bit about this debate because I'm personally guilty of this. And her skepticism is quite right because you just cannot know everything in medicine. It is just purely impossible. The more you try to learn about medicine, the more you realize, oh my goodness, there is actually so much more that you can learn about medicine. For example, you as a patient might go and see your doctor. 9 out of 10 times, the doctors know the constellation or signs and symptoms or systems or the pattern of recognition that you may fit into a certain condition, and they can give you the diagnosis, or they'll perform an examination, do some tests and investigations, and we can arrive at a diagnosis. But a lot of times, maybe you have a different constellation of symptoms. Maybe you have a rarer symptom that may be still part of this disease, but it is lesser known and is not usually in the common practice. So these are kind of things and facts that we need to look up. Or you may have taken a new medication and there are about 50 to 100 different side effects for each and every single one of these medications. Last I checked, FDA has 20,000 medications registered. So 20,000 times 50 to 100. That are so many side effects, just medications alone, to stuff into our brain, and that is just not practical. And I truly believe you don't have to know every single thing under the sun, all the textbooks, all the side effects of every single medications to be a good and safe doctor. Instead, we do have systems in place that we make sure that we are safe, we are covering all our bases. It is the mental models that we develop overseeing hundreds and hundreds of patients and the pattern of recognition that allows us to become a safe doctor. And once we rule out all these life-threatening conditions, then we think to ourselves, what could it be that is most common in terms of your symptoms that you're presenting? That can be your likely diagnosis. And then we continue to investigate in this direction. And for a doctor to actually say to you that I don't know, but I will find it out for you, this takes a strong sense of humility and self-awareness in order to admit this to you. And a lot of patients tell us that they do appreciate that you are being honest as a doctor, that you don't know and you'll find out. Because we as human beings, there are so many research articles that publish every single day. It is purely impossible to learn every single thing under the sun. So after this long tangent, let's jump back to this debate of should all exams be open book? But in order to say whether it should be or it shouldn't be, let's talk a little bit about the problems with it at the moment in terms of all the exams being closed booked. So now with all the exams mostly being closed booked, this means that in order for you to get excellent grades, to get into your dream universities and dream careers, you need to do well in your closed book exams. Now this then sets a goal in mind for a lot of students. I need to do well in exams, so I need to cram all of this information inside my brain as quickly as possible without the actual focus on learning. It doesn't place any focus on how we learn information and deep processing all of this information and form deep understanding so we can actually apply this to our own lives. And it doesn't incentivize us to actually learn information from multiple different angles so we can actually apply this to our own lives and across different areas of our lives as well. And it is also a sad fact that none of us are actually taught how to memorize properly. But learning and memorizing is just a skill that we can actually learn and get better at it. At first, if you ever used chopsticks before, you probably are very bad. For example, I am left-handed, so I've been using chopsticks all my life using my left hand. So now if I needed to go and use my right hand for this, I would absolutely suck. This is like any skill, be it basketball, it can be swimming, it can be any sports, and learning is just one of them. And it is now very ironic that our education system isn't really teaching us how to learn, but they're just shoving all of this information and expecting you to just learn it all by yourselves. We as students end up being frustrated if we didn't have our siblings or parents that knew how to learn and study. And that is the whole reason why I created Study Smarter Academy, to teach the skill on how to memorize and also to improve your mindset so you can have this amazing skill to apply this to your own lives and have an amazingly fulfilled career and life as well. Now, just like me back in pharmacy school, I focused on a lot of memorization and rote learning. So I was studying a lot of hours, 10 to 12 hours a day over the course of 4 years. I struggled a lot because every time I tried to rote learn, I put this information into my brain unwillingly. I'll just chant, rewrite, write and rewrite and reread my notes, and then I'll do this again and again and beat my brain into submission. And then next day I'll come come back to it and I probably only remember 5% of it because I never truly understood this information. I never truly formed a deep understanding and relation with my other knowledge in place. It is not until I continue to progress on and now I'm in medical school as a postgraduate. Now this is where I truly focused on the real learning. I didn't need the marks to get into medical school. I didn't need the marks to go anywhere else after medical school. So I focused solely on learning. Now this is where everything changed. Every day I would ask myself, how would I actually use this piece of information in real life? How would I use this concept elsewhere in my real life? How can I actually use this piece of concept, information, and fact to actually save my patient? If he or she were to collapse onto the street right now, how am I going to save him? And that actually happened to me once, and I'll talk to you about this in a separate video later. In medical school, I would deliberately forego the dry facts because it is just taking up so much of my space. I know that I can look this up later. For example, I know that the thigh can be divided into the anterior, so basically into 4 sections, anterior, posterior, and then lateral and medial as well. Knowing broadly what blood vessels and nerves are going to supply it, knowing how the body works in general, without getting to the deep minutiae of every single detail, because it is just impractical to learn every single thing, and you forget it straight away after your exams. So if I now were to tell myself back in high school or undergraduate pharmacy, what I should focus on instead is these current 2 things. First of all is to try to embrace the skills that you're actually getting taught. For example, looking at trigonometry is not something that it is a useful math thing that you will never use in the future, but it is actually testing your skill of problem solving. So you can actually use this skill in later or other areas of your life and your career later on to overcome these problems. Find a problem, so now you're presented with a problem. How are you able to use skills, research things online, and actually try to overcome this problem? And this can be generalized across other topics or even in your future life as well. And then this leads on to the second thing, which is how can you now take on these skills and to apply this to other areas of your life as well. Now in this information world, we are overwhelmed with information. We can all Google things on our computer, on our cell phones, on our laptops. We're not limited by the amount of information there is out there, but it's actually to form deep understanding, form these skills. For example, communication is a skill, learning how to learn is a skill, learning how to memorize properly is a skill, and what we just talked about in problem solving is a skill as well. And all of these skills are very valuable as a future employee, or even if you become a business owner, to develop your own business or to thrive in a career in a big corporate ladder that you want to climb up. And all of these are transferable and you can build on these year after year. I hope this video has been helpful for you and sparked a little bit of thoughts in your own head. Now if this has been helpful for you, make sure to comment below, like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.